Thank you all so much for tuning back in the Pushing the Pylon. This is your host, Jim Tannhauser, and we have reached episode 12. Can't believe we got this far. We just got through week 10 of the football season. I always want to say week 12 based on the episode we're on, but we actually have to go into the past. So week 10 of football just got by. And it feels like if you're a good team in this league, or if people expect you to win in this league, it's a bad sign because the underdogs are killing it this year. Just this past week, we had 6 underdogs win their game outright. We're not talking with a spread, not talking giving any points or getting any points. 6 underdogs won outright, while 9 covered their spreads that were given out at the start of kickoff. Makes for a really weird dynamic when you're picking games, right? Because for me, who gives out picks every week, you want to go with what your brain's telling you. Is, for example, we'll take Thursday's game, for example. We had the Ravens and Dolphins. Of course, Dolphins this year look rough at best. Rough might be a compliment. And the Ravens look like they're well on their way to being a contender in the AFC, guaranteed playoff team, guaranteed team to make some noise. So I took the Ravens, of course, and I would, if you gave me those two teams in different scenarios again, I'd probably pick the favorite again. It's just too perfect of a situation. Well, 4 quarters later, Dolphins win the game by 12, hold Lamar Jackson, former MVP, former whatever you want to call him, because this game he was a shell of his normal self, scored 10 points, 1 touchdown all game, and he was held to only 39 yards rushing. The Miami Dolphins did that. And credit to the Miami Dolphins defense. I think they're a fantastic defensive squad. Brian Flores, their head coach, is defensive-minded, defense-orientated. Made for the perfect storm, right? In this football game where everyone expects the Ravens to be this traditional hard-hitting defensive team and Lamar Jackson to just be elusive and untouchable and uncatchable. 22-10 Dolphins is the score we all exactly predicted, right? And that game happened. Tua Tagovailoa only had 158 yards, didn't throw for a single touchdown. And he didn't even start the game. Jacoby Brissett came into the game. He didn't throw a single touchdown. The only touchdown scored by an offense was either ran in by Tua for 1 yard or a Mark Andrews catch at the end of the game in the 4th quarter for the Ravens. Xavier Howard had a fantastic-looking pick 6 for the Dolphins. Credit to him on that. And I don't even mean pick 6, fumble return, I should say, for 50 yards. The rest of the game was all field goals. We saw Justin Tucker early in the game even miss a field goal, which I saw a tweet. Somebody said it was the first missed field goal attempt of Justin Tucker's career. And, of course, we know that's not true, but it sounds good, doesn't it? Justin Tucker is such a legendary, reliable, consistent kicker that if you told me that he only missed X amount of kicks, I'd probably believe you without having to look it up. But lo and behold, Dolphins go to 3-7 on the year. Ravens go to 6-3. I think the Ravens will be fine. Just like I don't think the Dolphins are going to be a playoff team from this win. It's a good win for them. Similarly, I don't think this is a year-destroying loss for the Ravens. I think they're going to be fine. I think the confidence is still there from the team, and their schedule coming up is pretty favorable for them. I mean, they have the Chicago Bears, who, it's a scary defense. It's going to be just as hard of a defense, if not harder than Miami was. But should be manageable for the Ravens if they get back to the level we all know and expect them to be at. Then they play the Cleveland Browns on Sunday Night Football, which who knows if Baker Mayfield's going to be healthy by then. We'll get more into the Browns after, because for all we know by that game, Case Keenum could still be the starter. The Ravens then go play the Steelers in Pittsburgh after, very winnable game. They play the Browns right back after that, and a week after Pittsburgh, so the Steelers separate the 2 Browns matchups, all divisional games. And then they get the harder end of the year where we get into the Packers, Bengals, Rams, and Steelers. So it's huge for the Ravens to win these the next month, we'll say. Next month, we'll put them at 10-3 if they can win all 4. Fantastic placement for them, no problem. I don't know, for those of you who've watched most every episode of this podcast, you may remember earlier in the year I gave out predictions, and one of which was John Harbaugh winning Coach of the Year. Now, Vegas odds may say that's an underdog. That was an underdog chance of happening all year. But the way the Ravens were playing, it looked like it was possible for a little while, and I was feeling really good about it. But losing to the Dolphins, getting blown out by the Bengals 2 weeks before that, I think it's safe to say John Harbaugh probably won't win Coach of the Year this year. They're going to be looking at, coaches who are succeeding and weren't expected to succeed necessarily. I mean, a lot of people expected the Ravens to be good this year. So when they slip up 2 out of 3 weeks, in that week in the middle, they played a tight game in overtime against the Vikings where they were one play away from getting blown out in that game, as far as I'm concerned. So I think the John Harbaugh Coach of the Year prediction can safely get put to bed, unfortunately, for yours truly. But there was a whole Sunday of football after that game. That was all the way last week we're talking about here. And it was an underdog Sunday for the books. We had, and we'll talk about Monday Night Football first, we had the San Francisco 49ers pummel the LA Rams. And the LA Rams weren't the same team they were last podcast when we filmed an episode. They got Odell Beckham. They won the sweepstakes for Odell Beckham. They weren't even a team that we discussed last episode when I was talking about possible landing destinations for Odell Beckham. That shows you what the media is good for sometimes, where a lot of it's just speculation, a lot of it's rumors, and yes, they have sources that we don't have access to, but what good did that do for him? Odell Beckham became an LA Ram at the last second when everyone expects him to be a Packer, a Chief, a Patriot even in some cases, or I'm brain farting on the team I didn't name here. We had the Chiefs, we had the Packers, we had the Patriots, and the Saints. That's who it was. The Saints as well, hometown team. Didn't land Odell. Could have used them last week, as we saw, against the Titans. Very close game, close loss for them. But Sunday, where do we start on Sunday? We had a team like the Dallas Cowboys last week get blown out by 40. It felt like 40, but come back this week and win by 40. Then we have the Jaguars, who, in the past, shocked the world these past few weeks. Not only that, but go and beat Buffalo the last game. And what does that do? They end up losing a close one to Indy. We'll get into that now. We'll start the Jim's Jags report because I don't really, frankly, want to linger on it much longer. The Jaguars lost. It was a one-score game, 23-17. Colts beat them. And what can I say about the team? I'm still not fully impressed with the team on any side of the ball, frankly. The defense is getting a lot better. I will say that. Holding Carson Wentz to under 200 yards, no touchdowns, that's an accomplishment. Say what you want about Carson Wentz not being a good quarterback, but this defense, at their worst, makes bad quarterbacks look fantastic. So when you have one like Carson Wentz have a very pedestrian game, you take that. Now, where the problem came, and it was in the first quarter, was a player by the name of Jonathan Taylor. For those of you who don't know, fantastic young running back for the Colts. Thrashes defenses when they let him go. I mean, week 17 last year, the Jaguars played the Colts, and it looked like that the Jaguars weren't allowed to have a center lineup, or the Jaguars weren't allowed to have a D-tackle lineup against the center because it was just wide open, up the middle, up the gut, all game. Jonathan Taylor running. If I'm not mistaken, he had nearly 200 yards rushing, if not 200 yards rushing. So today, this week, I should say, when I saw Jonathan Taylor start the first quarter with 70 yards or some nonsense like that, closing in on 100 in the first quarter, I was getting worried that we'd see an NFL record being broken. I was sitting there thinking about, what was the NFL record for rushing? There's Adrian Peterson, nearly, 300 yards rushing. He had something like 200 and some odd yards, and it looked like Jonathan Taylor was going to smash that. Now, luckily for Jaguars fans, he finished the game with only 116 yards rushing and a touchdown, so the Jaguars adjusted very well on that. What they couldn't adjust for, however, was their very stagnant offense. I mean, let's not butter it up at all. Trevor Lawrence, yes, I don't expect him to go and throw for 50 touchdowns with the team that's blocking for him and the receivers that are out there for him. But he's just hasn't flashed in the pan like, a Mac Jones has. And that's why you have a lot of people around the league, a lot of boneheads, dare I say, try to say that Mac Jones is better than Trevor Lawrence just because of, 9 weeks of football, and the Patriots playing the way they are. That gets chalked up to Mac Jones being a better quarterback already. Don't bring that take around here. Don't show your sports ignorance like that or your Patriots bias. Get on out of here, because 30 that other fan bases will tell you, 30 or 31, we'll say maybe not the Titans or Colts because they're haters, but Trevor Lawrence is the generational quarterback in this draft. That's for sure. It's up to Jacksonville whether or not they will field a team around him that can perform. The receiving core coming into this year looked fantastic. DJ Chark, Laviska Shenault coming off a big year, acquiring Marvin Jones in free agency. That amounted to, DJ Chark having a broken ankle, being out for the year. Laviska Shenault all of a sudden just not existing, whether he can't catch a ball or get open for his quarterback. I'm not sure what the issue is exactly. And then Marvin Jones he makes great plays, but the ball doesn't get to him that often. It gets to a guy like Dan Arnold a lot more, or it gets to a guy who's become the number one receiver for Trevor Lawrence, a punt returner, a special teamer, Jamal Agnew, who, by the way, fantastic run. Looking it up to be exact here, he had a 66-yard touchdown run in the first half, which, it sparked some life into the Jaguars offense, but you were down 17-0 already. You have your special teamer just outrunning the defense, pure and simple. Just beating them with speed and getting down the field. And that's just not going to be enough for me to be confident with the Jaguars offense at all. It's not. And I'm not blaming Trevor Lawrence for this. He's not perfect. And yes, he did fumble at the end of the game to seal it up for Indy. But there's a part of me that doesn't have the ability to blame Trevor Lawrence this early on in his career. He's in the ring of fire. He's very accountable. If you listen to his postseason or his post-game press conference, he's very accountable. He's very aware of people seeing it as him costing him the game with his fumble. And he'd probably be the first one to say, I did cost my team the game. But good on the Jaguars team around him to come out and say, no, we just didn't show up for him. We could have done more for him. And that's what you want to hear. You want to hear a locker room rally around their rookie quarterback. That being said, I've seen 3 touchdown passes from the Jacksonville Jaguars since September 30th. That is extremely depressing. And I just don't know what to make of it. I take it as the offensive line not giving Lawrence enough time, the receivers not staying healthy or being able to catch the ball for Trevor, mixed in with some rookie mistakes, which you're going to get. Rookie adjusting to the NFL. Mac Jones, sure, it's easy to go and say he's having this perfect rookie of the year season. He's not having a perfect year. He's having a good year. He's doing enough to keep his team in games. And like we saw Sunday against the Browns, just absolutely be able to capitalize on a situation where your defense is pummeling the Browns. But Mac Jones, very efficient game. He had barely a handful of incompletions. And that's good on him. I'm not taking anything away from Mac Jones to say that Trevor Lawrence is still the best quarterback in terms of talent, potential, just room for growth with him, just puts him at this ceiling that's so far above any other quarterback in this draft that I think the Jaguars will be okay so long as they continue to seek improvement on offense. Because the defense, just keep drafting defense as far as I'm concerned. They did it the past years of just focusing all on defense. Yeah, you're going to get some C.J. Hendersons in there. You're going to get a guy like that who, first-round pick, doesn't exactly live up to the hype, gets shipped out for a tight end who's made much more of an impact with this team in Dan Arnold. But for every one of those, you get a Miles Jack. You get a guy who should have been a first-round pick, fell out of the first round, and becomes the anchor of your defense, becomes the most talented, reliable linebacker that you have. So I'm all for drafting defense. In the meantime, they just have to continue to seek improvement on offense, and I want to see that from free agency. I want to see receivers brought in that already have proven themselves. Devonte Adams a free agent next season. That may be a little unrealistic considering he probably wants to go to a championship team with a veteran quarterback who knows to get him the ball. Not a rookie who's still learning. I get that. But a Mike Williams who can come to a team and be the number one because he's not the number one where he is currently as a Charger, that seems like a realistic grab for the Jaguars. Mike Williams, I'd love to see on this team. He's not the best wide receiver available next free agent class, but he'd be good enough for the Jags. That'd be a good enough target for Trevor Lawrence. You have your Juju Smith-Schusters out there, but you have to wonder how he's going to be coming back from injury, coming back from really this window of him not performing to what we saw him, coming into the league from USC. It's just a different Juju, and frankly, do I want to see him try to prove that in Jacksonville? Yeah, I would love that, but realistically, Mike Williams seems like the real wish list grab at the top of the list for the Jaguars next year. We got into Monday Night Football with Odell Beckham, and I wanted to talk about this more because he gets blown out on Monday Night Football by the 49ers. He gets 2 catches for 18 yards. He had a third target, which was right in his breadbasket. Dropped. Do I think that's going to be a sign for things to come? No. I think Odell Beckham found a home in LA. I think they're going to be contenders with Odell Beckham on their roster, especially Robert Woods tearing his ACL. They need to plug in Odell Beckham right away because Cooper Kupp and Van Jefferson and Tyler Higbee aren't going to be able to do it by themselves. I think he stays in LA for multiple years. He's a free agent after this year, but I don't think he leaves necessarily. I think the Rams figure out a way to keep him, whether it's to get him to take less money or move some other pieces around. Seems like a good piece for the Rams. It seems like that's something Matt Stafford can get used to down the road. In the meantime, like a week like this, it didn't seem like it. All 49ers defense. Hello, welcome back to the league, 49ers defense. And guess what? Just in time to play who next week? Want to take a guess? The Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars have to play a red-hot 49ers team who just found their identity against a division rival, who just stopped arguably one of the hottest offenses in the league, held them to 10 points. I'm scared. I'm scared for the Jaguars. We'll see how that goes. Hopefully the Jaguars can continue to improve on defense. That would be big for that game, and let Trevor Lawrence, do his best against a defense who is at the peak of confidence this season. They were under 500. They get that big win. That defense is going to be rushing Trevor Lawrence a lot. They're going to make sure he has no time to look to a second or third read, because by the time he's looking away from his first, he's probably going to get hit by a rusher. I'm curious to see how that goes with Jacksonville. I think they can play a good game. I have no doubt in my mind they can, but when you have the season you have James Robinson, a guy you've relied on in the backfield, just dealing with a multitude of injuries. Now it's a knee I'm hearing. It was, it wasn't the knee before. Now it is. We'll see if he even plays this week. If not, Carlos Hyde's going to have to do it against his former team. And that I'm not too optimistic about. But we'll see. Can happen. Stranger things have happened, like we just started the top of this episode with. This is an underdog's year. And if you're an underdog, you should be inspired that any given Sunday, you can go out there and win a football game. Much like the Washington football team this week. I mean, that was one of the few games I didn't pick right this week. I like to pat myself on the back and say that I had a really good week of picks this week. And we had the Washington football team win by double digits against Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What? With Taylor Heineke as a quarterback? Throwing for 256 yards, a touchdown, and 0 interceptions? And while Tom Brady on the other side of the field threw for less passing yards and 2 interceptions? What? Who in the world would have thought that? And all you Washington fans out there, you don't count. Just a shocking result. Antonio Gibson, 2 touchdowns, huge game for him. Stepped in while Terry McLaurin got banged up. Terry McLaurin is having a decent game, comes out of the game with an injury, eventually returns. And all of that while Chase Young on the defensive side tears his ACL. He's out for the year, unfortunately. You know, another player from the Ohio State University along with Terry McLaurin. Despite all of that, the Washington football team beat the Bucs. Like, who would think that? The line before the game, it was actually Bucs minus 10, which is funny because Washington won by 10. So it goes to show you that while a lot of times we see a spread of 4 and the team wins by 3, we say, wow, how did Vegas know that it'd be that close? Here, there's the exact opposite. They were dead wrong on this one, as were we all. Just underdog games like that. We had the Lions play the Steelers, which no one really expected the Lions to win, despite Mason Rudolph being the starter, Ben Roethlisberger out with COVID. We all said, the Lions, you know, might keep it close, but they'll probably blow it. And they kept it close, all right. The final score was 16-16, the first tie in the NFL this season. And boy, was it ugly. Jared Goff had 114 yards passing, somehow kept his team in the game. And if you watch the end of the game, the Steelers had a perfect chance to get in field goal range, and this is all after interception, turnover. Neither team wanted to win this game, it seemed like. And you had the Steelers, they had about 15 seconds left on the clock, no timeouts, and they were just outside of field goal range. So their idea was, hey, let's run a play, quick out-of-bounds play, gain a few yards, set up for a field goal, run some more timeout. I personally like that idea. Problem is, you have Mason Rudolph in, not Roethlisberger, so not a veteran IQ there. Something you should make sure your quarterback knows before that play. He throws it to Pat Freiermuth, a rookie, may I add, another, you know, non-experienced player in this situation. Catches it, and he's kind of far away from the out-of-bounds line, but in my opinion, he still could have had a chance to get there or try to. And in what it looked like, he turns upfield instead, gets wrapped up by, 2 Lions, and fumbles the ball right back to the Lions. Just absolutely a monumental collapse on the Steelers' part. They could have left this game, got the 19-16 victory with a field goal in overtime. Yeah, it's still, you're only beating the Lions by 3, but people don't remember that. They'll see it as a win on the schedule, and we'll all move on. Instead, they got too cute with it. They threw it in bounds, threw it to Freiermuth, who couldn't get out of bounds or didn't in time, and then fumbles the ball back to the Lions. Now, if he didn't fumble the ball, would the Steelers have had a chance to get up, spike the ball after the ref placed it? Maybe not, because when he was down, there was about 8 seconds left. They would have had to wait for the ref to get the ball in midfield or to the hash they were on, put it down, get the Steelers to spike it. I don't know if they had the time for that, but regardless, what are you doing, Pittsburgh Steelers? That game's going to hurt them. It's a tie. It's not a loss, sure, but that game's really going to kill them when they try to get in the playoffs and they think about how they didn't leave Heinz Field with a win against the Detroit Lions. That's going to be a shame for them. And the Lions, great, they got a tie, but they still don't have a win this year. So that doesn't feel good for them either. Your quarterback threw for less yards than your running back ran for. And then the other team's running back was 9 yards behind your quarterback's passing. So it's just an all-around ugly game. Both teams leave that game with nothing to be happy about. The Lions got a tie. Sure, they might be happy about that. Dan Campbell, big football guy. Seems like the guy who would not be happy about a tie, and I don't think he's content with it. And the Lions next week, they go to Cleveland to play the Browns. And you know who else goes to Cleveland next week to see the Browns? Me. I'm leaving on Friday. I'm going to Cleveland, Ohio. Admittedly, it wasn't a football trip. It was supposed to be a basketball trip, as I'm a Cleveland Cavaliers fan. Got tickets for the Cavs game. And I said, you know what? The Browns are at home. let me grab a ticket. I'll go check out the field. I've never obviously been to the Browns field or Cleveland at all, for that matter. So why not, right? Get in all the sports I can. Baseball's obviously out of season, so we can't get that. But I said, sure, let's get tickets, Browns-Lions. See Jared Goff against Baker Mayfield, at least. A semi-decent quarterback matchup. Well, Jared Goff is now day-to-day, so he may not be playing this Sunday. Tim Boyle may be the starter, which some of you are asking, who's Tim Boyle? And I would say, might need to get a better read on him for you, because I'm not too sure much about Tim Boyle at all myself. But at least, no problem. The Browns will have Baker Mayfield. They're a playoff team this year. That'll be exciting to watch, right? Maybe I'll even get to see Odell Beckham. Well, Odell gets traded. Baker Mayfield gets banged up, so now Case Keenum may be your quarterback there. And then Nick Chubb has COVID, so Nick Chubb may not even be ready for Sunday if he's going to be or have a chance to at all. So instead, I may see Tim Boyle against Case Keenum on a Sunday in 40-degree Cleveland, Ohio weather. Yay, me! No, but all seriousness, no. I don't care if there's 2 high school kids out there playing quarterback. I'm excited for the trip. I'm excited to be in Cleveland. I'm going to try my best. I've never been a film guy or a vlogger guy, especially on vacations in a place I've never been before. The first priority is me figuring out what the hell's going on around me. But I'm going to try to film. I'm going to try to vlog a little bit, get some footage, maybe talk to some Browns fans out there. It should be some good content regardless. I'm going to film that. We'll hopefully get it placed on our next episode of Pushing the Pylon, or we'll do a separate video altogether, and we'll just have it on the YouTube page where everyone can check that out. Good time to mention, if you don't already subscribe to Pushing the Pylon on YouTube, make sure to do that. Make sure to like our page on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, wherever else you can find Pushing the Pylon. Support us, help us out. And yeah, it should be an exciting trip. I will be filming next episode of Pushing the Pylon in Cleveland while I'm there. So you will not have the stadium seating all around me as you've been so used to these past several weeks. You're going to see a nice hotel room. If I can get a good camera angle, maybe the backdrop of Cleveland, Ohio. We'll see about that. But I'm still going to film an episode. You know that. I'm not going to stop filming an episode because I'm on vacation. We're not done working around here. My producer's not done working around here. We don't get tired. We're going to keep doing it for all you out there. And I'm just going to keep doing what I love. Watching and talking about sports, and more specifically, football. But Tim Boyle against Case Keenum, I mean, come on now. That's... what did I do to deserve that, right? You couldn't at least give me Baker. You couldn't at least give me Jared Goff. You couldn't at least said, hey, the Lions are signing a random quarterback. Maybe they go get Cam Newton to play. Not so fast. Cam Newton's no longer a free agent. If you didn't see the news, the Carolina Panthers got Cam Newton back. And frankly, I think he just fits in Carolina Panthers colors. When he was a Patriot, it looked odd. Something seemed off. The shading, the color was different. He's back in Carolina uniform. He's back in the colors. And Superman 2.0's back. And is he ever back? Yes, the Arizona Cardinals had Colt McCoy play. Yes, Chase Edmonds hurt. Yes, DeAndre Hopkins hurt. Yes, J.J. Watt's out for the year. Sure, all of that is true. But the Panthers go into Arizona, smack the Cardinals, and Cam Newton's responsible for the first 2 touchdowns of the game, including the first one he ran in, takes his helmet off, and goes, "I'm back," to the crowd. Cool moment. You know, I'm not the biggest Cam Newton fan, but it was a pretty cool moment. You know, regardless of what you think about him, good on him to come back when he had to listen to the media for all these months, say he can't throw a football anymore, he can't play football anymore, talking about his vaccination status and all this and that, and the whirlwind of media that comes with that. Cam Newton's back on a football field, back in a Panthers uniform, back to contributing the victories for the Panthers, and at 5-5, they couldn't ask for anything better. I mean, P.J. Walker, not terrible, just not the guy you want starting if you want a playoff spot. Sam Darnold, now it's looking like his job's in trouble. Just got traded to Carolina, had a big starts to the season, and then fell off. The team fell off a little bit, but now they get McCaffrey back. They get Cam Newton back. He's on the outside looking in. At 5-5, when the Panthers have upcoming, they have Washington, they have the Dolphins, they have the Falcons. So those 3 games in a row, why not? Why can't Carolina go and win 3 in a row real quick, go to 8-5? And then we're talking about Cam Newton all of a sudden being a potential playoff quarterback. When we ranked quarterbacks earlier in this podcast, several episodes ago at this point, we went through a ranking system of best quarterbacks over the past 2 years, and Cam Newton found himself close to, or in some of our cases, at the bottom of that list. He's going to work his way up that list now, and especially just from last week. I mean, adding the 2 touchdowns, I'm going to pull up this list again. It's from October 10th to be exact. So we had Cam Newton below Jacoby Brissett, which I'll put him above Jacoby Brissett now automatically. Andy Dalton, we haven't really seen this year since this list. Put Cam Newton there. And then you're going to have the Trubisky's, Ryan Fitzpatrick's, and we had Jimmy G down here, which Jimmy G's proven us maybe he should be higher up on that list. And we had Sam Darnold way up on this list. So maybe another week we see Cam Newton stay hot. We're going to put Cam Newton right where Sam Darnold is. We're going to take good old Samuel Darnold and put him back at that bottom. But we'll see. You know what we're going to do? We're going to revisit this in 2 weeks. Episode 14 of Pushing the Pylon. We're going to have a revised quarterback ranking list from yours truly. Speaking of things that come back, we had the Kansas City Chiefs look like their old selves again, winning 41-14. Mahomes threw for 5 touchdowns, 400 yards on a defense that a lot of people said was sneaky good this year. And that's not to say they're not good anymore or weren't good at all, but they got exposed by who I think is the best quarterback in the NFL. They got exposed by one of the best teams in the NFL. I don't care if they're only 6-4. They're back. They never left. Spoiler alert. I heard a lot of people this week say, Chiefs are back. Mahomes, all the idiots who thought Mahomes was figured out in the league. Who was thinking that? These ESPN writers and Sports Illustrated writers and Fox Sports and people who just want to create a headline story were telling you Patrick Mahomes was figured out by the league. They were telling you the Chiefs' defense was so bad that Mahomes didn't have a chance to succeed even when he gets good again. He's good. He's always been good. The Chiefs, they're good. As a matter of fact, I think the Kansas City Chiefs go to their 4th straight AFC Championship game. Their 3rd straight Super Bowl. And do they win 2 in the last 3 years? They might. The NFC is very tough this year, so we're not going to go that far yet. But to get to the Super Bowl, they'd have to get through a couple teams that made them look bad this year. Sure, they have the Ravens out there. You have the Bills out there. But I think they can beat those teams when push comes to shove, especially when they find their identity. Again, I'm going to put that in quotations again, because I don't think the Chiefs ever left. I think they had a little bad stretch. I think too much was expected out of Mahomes. And when you had a night like tonight, where the defense of the Chiefs played great, Mahomes flawlessly throws 50 passes and completes 35 of them. Fantastic stuff right there from Pat Mahomes. Beating a divisional rival, the Raiders, a first-place team in your division for that matter. And now the Chiefs are right back atop the AFC West. Next week, they have the Cowboys, which I think is game of the week potential written all over it. Another thing, sneaky advice here, I think the game's going to be very, very high scoring. And we'll look at the line right now. They think it's going to be 56. I think we get into the 60s. I think we might even touch the 70s with that total. Watch for that game to be a very high-scoring game. They have the Chiefs favored by 2.5. Now, I know you know how I feel about the Cowboys. I think they're a fantastic team. Super Bowl favorite, especially in a crowded NFC. It means a lot to be the Super Bowl favorite. I think the Cowboys are. If not, you're going to say the Packers, and that's fine. But something tells me the Chiefs sneak out of this one with the win. Maybe by 3, maybe by 4. And I wouldn't take it away from either team losing this game. Whether it's the Chiefs going to 6-5 or the Cowboys going to 7-3. I think those teams are okay either way. I think they're both playoff teams. I think they both win at least one or two playoff rounds this year. And potentially, dare I say, Super Bowl preview, Cowboys-Chiefs. I don't think many of us would complain about that. It's a good old-school franchise matchup. Two offenses who are atop the league right now. It's just about which defense shows up. We've seen the Cowboys defense elite this year. And then we've seen the Chiefs not really have that elite defensive game yet. So we'll see. Maybe we'll see. We don't know. But Sunday might be a good indication of which team, if not both teams, are ready for the Super Bowl. Or the playoffs, I should say. I shouldn't get too far ahead of myself. The game of the week this week we all had was the Packers-Seahawks. Russell Wilson back, Aaron Rodgers back in Lambeau. Perfect, right? Well, Packers win 17-0. Russell Wilson did not look like himself at all. 2 interceptions, sub 200 yards passing. Not really his fault, but again, while it's not his fault, he didn't really do much to help anyway. Aaron Rodgers, he almost threw for 300 yards. He threw a pick in the end zone. No touchdown passes. So wasn't the quarterback duel we all expected. Aaron Jones goes out with injury. Could have sprained his knee somewhere. Some injury with that where he'll be out probably a couple weeks. A.J. Dillon steps in the meantime. This game steps in flawlessly. 21 carries, 60 yards, 2 touchdowns. 2 big touchdowns, one at the end to seal up the game for Green Bay. So now you have those quarterbacks back. The Packers can go back on their quest to being the team that knocks off the Super Bowl favorite Cowboys and make sure that they become the Super Bowl favorites. They have the Vikings next week, then the Rams, the Bears, the Ravens. Very tough schedule for Green Bay coming up, but diamonds are formed under pressure, and we'll see if the Packers are that diamond team. Because if they are, they go and beat the Vikings, no problem. They go and beat the Rams that are still trying to bring it all together for the playoffs. Not saying they won't, but I think they're still in that stage. To beat the division rival Bears. I mean, on Sunday Night Football, after the last time he played them, Aaron Rodgers over here saying, I own you? I own the Bears? Yeah, the Packers better win that game at Lambeau. You bet they better win that game at Lambeau. Because then after that, they have the Ravens, Browns, Vikings, Lions, which really the Ravens sound like the hard team out of that, but very winnable schedule for the Packers. If they can somehow finish this season with 1 or 2 more losses, that's extremely impressive for them. Meanwhile, for Seattle, just doesn't seem like the season for them. They got Arizona next week where Kyler Murray says, I'll probably be back. They play Washington. They play San Fran. And then they still got another matchup against the Rams and another one against the Cardinals down the road as well. Doesn't seem like the Seahawks year in a crowded NFC West. Seems like even the 49ers have an outside shot to be a wild card team if they keep playing like they did on Monday. But Seahawks on the outside looking in. You're going to start hearing the Russell Wilson out of Seattle rumors. I say don't buy him for a second. He loves it there. They love him. He's not the problem. It's just about when the Seahawks will decide to rebuild. If they decide to rebuild or if it's just a retooling. If it's a retooling, Russell Wilson will be there for the rest of his career. If it's a rebuilding, I think they'd give it another year or 2 of Russell Wilson for sure. And then they start examining it. I don't think they do it this offseason. I think it'd be too early, too premature to get your Super Bowl winning quarterback out of town, one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever touch a football, for that matter. But the final game I wanted to get to, and I kind of touched base on the Browns earlier, but the New England Patriots, they go and beat the Browns by 38, beat the brakes off them. We talked about Mac Jones having a very efficient game. Threw for under 200 yards, but threw 3 touchdowns and only 4 incompletions. Not going to hear any criticism from me. That's a great game for Mac Jones, possibly his best of the year. Ramondre Stevenson hit 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. The rookie running back for them. Fantastic thing to see if you're the New England Patriots. They're always struggling to find that consistent rusher, and when they seem to find it like a Damian Harris, he's out. And then a guy like Ramondre Stevenson comes in, steps up. That's a good problem for New England. a crowded backfield of good running backs that can all start. What they usually have had issues of is having a backfield full of running backs who are all utility backs. Damian Harris and I think Ramondre Stevenson, once he develops more, are the real deal running backs who can run New England. No pun intended. But are the Patriots back? Are the Patriots legit? Do they have a shot to knock the Bills out of the AFC East title picture? I don't know about that. But they play the Falcons on Thursday, which scares me for the Patriots, which I'm not a Patriots fan. I would love to not see the Patriots do well. However, Falcons underdogs that everyone's writing off on primetime football. We've seen this before multiple times. Guess what? We just saw it last week with the Dolphins. Everyone wrote them off. Everyone said, no way. I don't care if they're in Miami hosting the Ravens. They can't win. And they did. So, Atlanta Falcons just got blown out by 40 to the Cowboys. Playing a team who just blew out the Browns by 40. 38. Browns fans will want me to correct that. Does a line of only 7 for New England seem low for you? It does for me. I feel like New England should be double-digit favorites. It's a smelly, stinky, suspicious line. I don't know if it's going to make me say the Falcons are going to win that game, but it's definitely going to make me consider looking into more stats, doing more research for that game, which I'll give my final prediction for on TikTok or other social medias tomorrow. Be on the lookout for that video. But after that, New England plays the Titans, the Bills, the Colts, the Bills again, the Jaguars, and the Dolphins. So a tricky schedule for New England there. That Bills game's those two Bills games, are going to be huge for New England. One of which being on Monday Night Football in Buffalo. Now, if they win that, we can definitely revisit the AFC East race. But until then, it's probably Buffalo's division. They're a half game up on New England. Not a lot, not much at all. But they play twice head-to-head, so we'll really see who the king of the AFC East is there. But in the meantime, New England Patriot fans, you thought you were rebuilding without Tom Brady? You might be shaping up for another playoff run. Be careful. Be ready, but temper your expectations because, you know what? Don't temper your expectations, New England fans, because you're not going to anyway. We've all dealt with you for the best and worst reasons for 20 years. Most successful franchise in the NFL, twice over for that matter. Don't temper your expectations. Go ahead. Dream of the Super Bowl. I think it's in LA this year. Dream of the Super Bowl, New England, because the AFC this year has anything but a reliable, consistent contender. Every time we think we have one, they fall off. The Buffalo Bills, we think they're legit, lose to the Jaguars. We sit there and we say, oh, the Titans are legit, right? Then they lose Derrick Henry for the season, or if not, most of the regular season. Oh, no problem. We have the Baltimore Ravens. They're definitely the team. Well, they get blown out by Cincy and then lose to the Dolphins. Oh, the Chiefs, though, right? Well, we already talked about the Chiefs and how they've been struggling this season. Oh, but the Raiders, well, look at the Raiders going for off-the-field problems. Then when they get back on the field, they get slugged out by the Chiefs, the team they need to beat. Oh, but what about the Chargers? One of the best offenses in the league. Young, upcoming defense who's stopping a lot of teams. They can't seem to get a reliable win this year, just losing to the Vikings this past week. The list goes on. We can keep naming teams from the AFC who we thought were going to be the contenders. But, I mean, even before this season, Carson Wentz to the Colts. People are talking about the Colts being Super Bowl contenders. They don't even seem like they might miss the playoffs this year, as a matter of fact. Who knows? Point being, New England. New England can be the team out of the AFC. I don't think they'll go through Kansas City. I don't think they'll go through teams like that. But just think of it for a second. Why isn't it possible? What AFC team? Name one that has been consistent, reliable, and elite all season. You can't. Yeah, NFC teams have had their slip-ups, but you still have the Cowboys. You still have the Packers. You still have the Cardinals when they're fully healthy. And the Bucs. You have teams like that who we know are this powerhouse, reliable team. AFC doesn't have that. So if New England wants to be it, begrudgingly, be my guest. And with that, thank you so much for tuning in to Pushing the Pylon yet again. Make sure to follow us on all our social medias, including YouTube. Make sure to subscribe. It really helps us out. Comment on the next video. if you comment, if you're the first one to comment the timestamp of right now, you win this card. It's hard to see with the background. It doesn't help with that. What am I saying? But you can win this card if you put that timestamp. I've been trying to give it away for a few episodes now. None of you will comment on it. I don't know if all of you watched from start to back on this, but eventually some of you will. But on that note, again, thank you very much for tuning in, and I will see you next time. Take care.